The early 20th century was the heyday of the battleship class. Great Britain became the trendsetter with its giant dreadnoughts, symbols of unquestionable military power and true tide-turners in naval combat. The Queen Elizabeth class was developed and built on the eve of the First World War, and it had to be completed in a very short time. Britain's main opponent in the imminent war, the Imperial German Navy, was much to worry about. Its Kaiser class of dreadnoughts posed a formidable threat with thick armor and powerful armament. The British wanted to make sure they had something to counteract it with, so they decided to build battleships that would surpass all existing and even future German ships in armor, firepower, and, most importantly, speed. The plan was taken seriously. The main caliber of the Queen Elizabeth was an impressive 381 millimeters. The British engineers were short on time and used the tried-and-true Vickers Mark V 343mm cannon as the base. While past experience was a good guideline, they had to upscale the design to meet the new goals. The pacing was so fast that most of the usual trials had to be skipped. Still, the cannon turned out to be reliable and robust, at least for its caliber. It had a range exceeding 20 kilometers and excellent ballistics. In addition to high firepower, the Queen Elizabeth was to boast high speed, which was a weak side of the Iron Duke dreadnoughts. It became the first battleship in history to be equipped with engines running on oil, a fuel with much higher energy density than coal. The first upgraded dreadnought was laid down in 1912, and by October 1913, it was complete. The HMS Warspite was the second of the class, and its launch was overseen by Winston Churchill himself, then First Lord of the Admiralty. The battleship was quickly prepared for war. It was basically a giant bet worth no less than £2.5 million, but the bet soon proved to be a winning one. The HMS Warspite saw its first combat in the summer of 1916, during the Battle of Jutland, which was the largest naval battle of the Great War. During the battle, the ship's steering became jammed. It left the formation and spent around half an hour circling under heavy enemy fire. All it could do was fire back and soak up incoming shells. And it worked! The HMS Warspite survived more than a dozen hits and even inadvertently saved the HMS Warrior, shielding the smaller ally from a large caliber hit and inspiring its comrades. The Warspite spent a long time in repairs after that, but eventually returned to patrol duty. During the interwar period, the battleship received a few upgrades, including more reliable armor. But World War II arrived fast and gave the battleship new missions to complete. Its further path was just as tumultuous. In the early stages of the war, it supported ground forces during the Battle of Narvik, fought the Italian fleet, and even set a historical record for the farthest hit from a moving ship. It landed a shell on the Giulio Cesare, moving 24 kilometers away. Later years left a few more scars on the Warspite's hull. One Fritz X, an early guided bomb, cost the ship a quarter of its firepower, but it failed to render it inoperable. In 1944, the HMS Warspite bombarded the defensive positions during the Normandy landings and hit a mine. Still, it wasn't enough to sink this battleship. It was restored one more time and reported for duty in Northern Europe. And only a few months later, it was finally allowed to retire. Each British ship traditionally received both a name and a motto. The HMS Warspite's motto was Belli Dura Despicio, which is Latin for "I despise the hardships of war." Back at the beginning of its service life, no one could expect this battleship to truly live up to its motto and become one of the most decorated ships of its time. After World War II, it was sent away for scrapping, but fortune had one last mishap for it in store. The HMS Warspite encountered a severe storm and went aground on the coast of Cornwall, where it remained until the mid-1950s, when it was finally salvaged.